800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. That's 800-257-1632.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
Still a chance of a shower or even a thunderstorm as we go through the afternoon and the evening hours, particularly south of St. Louis, where we could see a stronger storm. High temperatures today making it into the low to mid 80s, and we are looking for lows tonight in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees. Could see an isolated shower tomorrow morning, but generally partly cloudy skies and that high temperature in the mid 80s, and very little rain expected over the weekend. In the First Alert Weather Center, I'm KMOV meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome to Colombo and Company on a Wednesday afternoon. Packed show, lots going on today. I didn't realize this was happening until just a moment ago. Donald Trump is at the White House making an announcement about AI and crypto regulations. He's got a bunch of crypto executives there at the White House with him. I don't know where they're at in this process right now. Well, it looks like we're just doing introductions here. I'm going to keep an eye on this. Let's not go to this quite yet. Because I'm very interested in this. This is literally something we were just talking about yesterday with our big tech AI expert, Mike McCleary, and something we've talked about in recent weeks about the need for some type of guidelines. I'm never going to be the guy that's endorsing, a bunch of regulations, but there does need to be some guidelines, specifically when it comes to AI and its development and its evolution, about, what's okay, what's not okay, what do you need to disclose about AI, if it should be clearly marked, if something is written by AI or a video is made by AI or pictures are taken by AI and they're posted on social media or they're posted, anywhere. Should there be regulations? Should there be rules about how those things are identified? So this is really interesting stuff, and I'm glad that the president is addressing them. Let's go ahead and dip in for just a second, Ashlyn, if we can, to the White House and Donald Trump talking about AI and crypto regulations moving forward.
Weaponization, they use weaponization, political weaponization, and constant targeting that drove innovation overseas, and they wanted to drive it out. And toward the end of the campaign, if you remember, they decided they liked it very much because there were over 100 million people that were liking Trump a lot more because I was in favor of it. They were against it, and they became very much in favor of it. But by that time, it was too late. And besides, those days are all over. That was a terrible period of time for a lot of very good, very honorable financial people. On day one, we fired Joe Biden's rogue SEC chair, Gary Gensler. I think we like Paul better. Do we agree? We like Paul better? Number one, he's smarter. He's also smarter, by the way. But we fired him. We got him the hell out of here. We terminated the so-called Operation Choke Point 2.0, which is what the name of their operation was, weaponization. And we ended the war on crypto once and for all. And it's been booming. It's been doing big. And nobody's been able to break in. China would like to break in. They're still trying. but they have been able to. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank digital currency. We launched Project Crypto to modernize rules so that our financial markets can move into blockchain technology. I established the United States Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, making Bitcoin a permanent asset of the United States Treasury, which has turned out incredibly well. I also created the United States Digital Asset Stockpile to hold custody of all other digital assets, and that's exactly what it's done. It's been amazing. 1 year ago this summer, I signed landmark legislation known as the Genius Act. I named it after myself. I didn't want to use my name, so I just called it the Genius Act, paving the way for widespread adoption of dollar-backed stablecoins, and that's worked out very well. Every single American benefits enormously from our country's status as the financial center of the world, and we want to keep it that way. We're leading by leaps and bounds. We've gained so much in the last 16 months like nobody can believe, actually. Not only that, but we have more money being invested in the United States than any country at any time in history. Money's coming in by the trillions. Our nation's economic dominance drives trillions of dollars in investments, creates millions of jobs, and expands access, credit, and capital so that every citizen has a chance to achieve what we now hear a lot about, the American dream. Young people are looking for the American dream. They weren't thinking about that 2 years ago. New financial technologies are extending this American dominance into the 21st century, and that's why we're focused on creating a clear regulatory framework for pioneers and builders like the people that are with me here, so that they can do business with confidence on American soil. They don't have to go to other countries to do their business. We're ensuring that America remains the undisputed leader, not only in Bitcoin and crypto, but also technologies like prediction markets, artificial intelligence, and much more. And we're leading in every single one. And I will tell you, the AI, the artificial intelligence, we're way ahead of number two. Number two is China. And I never want to underestimate China, but right now we're way ahead. President Xi's coming on September 24th. We look forward to it. We'll probably be talking about AI and a lot of other things. But we're doing tremendously well, largely because of people and some other friends of ours that are on the board. And they'll be here in 2 weeks, I understand. In May, Chairman Selig authorized the first ever true Bitcoin perpetual futures contract on a CFTC registered exchange, first time. I understand that Mike is also working to bring Hyperliquid into the United States in a fully compliant and legal fashion. It's working very hard on that. We would really like to see interest rates come down. You know, in the old days with interest rates, many of you are too young to know this, but when we announced good numbers, interest rates would go down. And the theory was because the asset value became so good, it became so prime. But now when we announce good numbers, which we're doing all the time, they keep driving the interest rates up because they're so afraid of inflation. And they shouldn't be. They should allow interest rates to go down. When you announce good numbers, you shouldn't drive them up. They keep thinking that we'll drive them up to stop inflation, because success and growth does not cause inflation. Other things cause inflation. We inherited the #1 inflation ever in the history of our country from Biden, and it lifted prices and everything else, and we're getting them all down. But interest rates should be allowed to fall with the success of our country, not rise because of the success. But we're also on the very beginning of a revolution in fictional and financial. You take a look at some of the things that are being done on a financial basis and the financial technology that's the potential to create more jobs, opportunity, and wealth for all Americans. And that's what it's doing. It's creating jobs and great wealth. And I think that can't be better seen by the stock market. So we've had 80 in a short period of time, a year and a half. We've had 80 days where the stock market hit all-time highs. I haven't looked today. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't look. I don't want to look. But I hear it's good. But we've had 80 days, Jeff, where the stock market has hit an all-time high, and nobody's ever seen anything like that. And I think bringing it down to another level, and maybe a higher level from the standpoint of importance, 401ks have hit record highs on almost 40% of the time that I've been president of the United States, and that affects tens of millions of people. The 401ks are at record numbers. So 2 years ago, our country was dead, and now our country is the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's nobody close. No other country is close, and every country will admit it. So now we need Congress to take the next step by passing the Clarity Act, a fair version of the Clarity Act, and this landmark structure legislation. It's a very, very powerful structured legislation which will keep us ahead of China, keep us ahead of everyone else, will open the door to the next wave of innovations and innovators. So I'd like to ask Chairman Selig to say a few words and a little bit of the details about what we're doing, and then we'll follow it up with Chairman Atkins and Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong, Intercontinental Exchange CEO Jeff Sprecher, Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev, and Kraken CEO Arjan. So we have that all set, and let's get going. And you know what? If you want to speak for a very short period of time, that's okay, too.
We're listening to the president at the White House laying out his plans to keep the United States leading the world when it comes to crypto and AI. And we're going to stay with this for just another couple minutes here.
Political lawfare, debanking, and regulation by enforcement is over. Innovators like the people in this room are welcome to the White House, not railroaded to the big house. And the new frontier of finance is being built right here in the United States of America. From day one, this president has been clear. America will not fall behind and allow other countries to take its place as the greatest country on earth to build a new technology, operate a business, and invest for the future. The world will run on the backbone of American technology. Under President Trump's leadership, we've codified the Genius Act, established a strategic Bitcoin reserve, drawn a clear line in the sand between crypto securities and commodities, launched the first U.S. crypto perpetual, and protected the rights of software developers. We've exiled Gary Gensler, defeated the anti-crypto army, and made the United States the crypto capital of the world. I'm proud to be working with Secretary Lutnick in the Department of Commerce as well to make America the compute capital of the world. This may be the most important commodity of our day. Some call it digital oil, and America needs to dominate these markets to win the AI race. We've also protected federally regulated prediction markets from rogue state attorneys generals like Letitia James, who seek to nullify federal law and drive these markets offshore to unregulated and foreign venues. American dominance in the technologies that will define the future remains unmatched. We are truly in a golden age of American innovation. Now, the United States has a choice. We can either write the rules that define the next generation of financial markets, or we can let other countries write them for us. With Congress advancing the Clarity Act towards the finish line, we stand ready to implement the bill once the president signs it. But we'll use every tool available to move the president's pro-innovation agenda forward in the meantime. Tomorrow at the inaugural meeting of the CFTC's Innovation Advisory Committee, I look forward to sharing more details on our regulatory path forward. A path forward that provides greater certainty for innovators while reinforcing confidence in our markets for decades to come. This president has assembled an extraordinary team of entrepreneurs, builders, investors, and business leaders advising in government, like David Sachs, of course, and Patrick Witt. This real-world experience has already brought valuable perspectives into policymaking, and it will continue to pay dividends for the American people. Innovation depends on regulatory clarity. Clear rules create confidence. Confidence attracts investment, and investment creates jobs, strengthens our markets, and keeps the world's best talent building here in America. Mr. President, thank you again for your leadership and for making American innovation great again.
That's Michael Selig, the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading with the Trump administration, standing next to the president, who we heard from there beforehand. And it looks like there's going to be more people speaking at the White House this afternoon, and we're going to continue to keep an eye on this. But, amazing timing here, as this was one of the main topics of discussion on the show yesterday with our AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine, and has been one of our primary topics in those discussions about AI and about crypto and about all of these digital things that are becoming a everyday part of our lives. And we've talked a lot about, and again, ironically, a pretty amazing timing. Just yesterday, Mike was telling us that some of the biggest AI companies in the world were starting to sort of band together and come up with their own policies that match each other about identifying when something is created by AI and how that should be posted, when you're viewing something online, if it's a video or a picture or you're reading something, should those be clearly marked as being created by AI? Right now, there's no laws about that. There's a lot of questions surrounding crypto and regulations around that. And, again, as a strong libertarian at heart, the word regulation makes me uneasy. But there are, in almost every situation, there are common sense guidelines, safety measures, and regulations that should be put in place in order to make sure we're all on the same page and we're all playing under the same set of rules as we move forward with these areas. And that is exactly what the president is addressing right now at the White House, and talking about some actions, legislation, possibly. He mentioned a couple pieces of legislation that he's pushing towards Congress. I don't know if there will be any executive orders attached to this as well. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on this throughout the afternoon and keep you posted on it. But this is one of the things that I really like about this is it's showing Donald Trump and the United States determination to lead the way. And again, one of the big concerns that we've had in our conversations over the last several months about AI development here on the show is about how important it is that the United States do continue to be the leaders. Because, as Trump just mentioned, China's number 2. We don't want to be following China. We don't want China to be the ones making the decisions on anything, let alone on what's right and wrong when it comes to things like AI and crypto. He mentioned that the U.S. Will remain leaders in crypto and AI and all technology moving forward. He mentioned something called Hyperliquid. I had never heard that before. It's part of the blockchain, apparently, and is part of what Donald Trump wants to bring to the United States. He talked about building a framework to make sure that that we do continue to lead the way, and that there are some guidelines, and it's not the Wild West when it comes to the continued evolution of things like crypto and AI. So really important stuff. And I'm glad to see that the administration is so engaged and taking this so seriously and making sure that we are the ones that are dictating how this is going to unfold, because AI is a scary thing. Crypto is a very confusing thing for very many people. And, left in the wrong hands, people can mislead others. People can be underhanded with the way that they produce things or post things. And it's good to see that they're taking this so seriously and making sure that things are communicated clearly. There's rules to be followed by everyone, and that the United States continue to be the ones that dictate all of those things. So we'll keep an eye on this as this rolls out, and and let you know any more details that come out of this this meeting at the White House right now. All right, we have got a lot to talk about as we go through the rest of the afternoon. There's a lot going on with Anthony Fauci. There's a lot going on in Iran. The WNBA is making news again today, and it's pretty amazing. We're going to get into all those things and more as we go through the afternoon. We're going to open Close's Cabinet at 3 o'clock. That's always a good time. Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd joins us in about 20 minutes. And the great Stel Babe, producer Stel Ponticus, joins us next here on Colombo and Company.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Fantastic. Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Chris Arps here, and after Becky and I leave church on Sunday, we head down the street to Capriotti's to grab a classic meatball sub. I love Capriotti's, and you will too. Visit Capriotti's now at 2 locations on Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Senator Hawley, I grew up in North County. The subdivision that I lived in, Coldwater Creek, ran through our neighborhood.
The federal government dumped radioactive waste into the water, into the air, and they knew about it. They've done it for 70 years, and they've lied about it. And people in our state and in that region in particular have gotten sick and died.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
At Body of Health, we're a small but mighty family operation with big ambitions for your health. I'm Helene Tobler, and I'm jazzed about how our MRI-grade body composition analyzer is putting personalized health and wellness on steroids. It helps me and Dr. Tobler, that's my husband, refine the advice we give to help you feel better and live longer. Body of Health, trusted, discerning, affordable health care the way it ought to be. Learn more at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Producer Joey V here. There were more primaries across the country yesterday, so it's a perfect time to talk to Ali Triolo, the election integrity expert for the RNC at 520.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo in studio here with producer Ashlyn. Just checked in live at the White House in that last segment as the president is hosting executives in the areas of crypto and AI development as he is rolling out his plan of some regulations and guidelines and plan to ensure that the United States continue to be the country that leads the world when it comes to tech development, especially when it comes to crypto and AI and, you know, these new technologies that are quickly growing and people need to understand how they work, and we need to have some basic ideas on how, on what is legal and what's not legal and how these things work. So important stuff happening at the White House, and we'll continue to keep an eye on it and let you know any more details that come out of this event at the White House today and in the future as the president makes his push for these things. All right, as I mentioned, joining us now on the line is our intrepid Cub reporter in the field, checking in once again as he is out there covering all the important stories that are important to you in your life. The great Stel Ponticus, producer. Stel, babe, what's up, my friend?
Happy to join you, my friend, on this wacky Wednesday.
Right, it is. They're all wacky days. It's just so much to keep up with, but yeah, I'm glad to see this. This is not how I expected to start the show today. I didn't know this was going down at the White House this afternoon, but I am glad to see the president is so invested and serious about ensuring the United States continues to be the world leader when it comes to development of all tech, but especially things like crypto and AI that are so new and developing so fast that, there can be a lot of confusion and a lot of bad actors to take advantage of those things. So I'm glad to see the president is taking this so seriously. What about you?
It sure seems like there's a lot of stuff going on in both of those areas. And I noticed this morning, speaking of AI, that Pennsylvania has joined New York and Texas with restrictions on construction of new AI data centers. So, it looks as though this is going to be kind of a bumpy road here over the next few months. We'll see how things go. Hopefully, everything will be running smoothly as we continue in both of those areas, because crypto and AI are at the forefront of what's going to be our future.
Yeah. And while there will be, there'll still be a lot of drama and confusion and issues to address with that, it's a much better situation if the United States is the one that's dictating the pace and leading the way rather than China, which is,
that's true.
As
Yes.
Donald Trump pointed out a moment ago there, China's number 2, and he wants to keep it that way. A couple interesting things happening today. I thought this was pretty amazing. Ted Cruz is one of the many people on the right that is taking a victory lap today, as it has been revealed that Nike, iconic American brand, their stocks as of this week have plunged to a 12-year low. And what everybody is saying that the reason for this is because they are one of the companies, one of the big brands. We saw this right here with Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light, a couple of years ago with the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing, that has embraced the woke culture and tried to pander to the woke culture, and it has led to disastrous results. And I don't know, hopefully a lesson still to these businesses that think that if they bow the knee to to social media and the loud woke voices surrounding them, they think that that's going to somehow lead to success, and it obviously doesn't.
I had thought by now most of these large companies and corporations had at least learned a lesson, or maybe had an idea of what's going on in the business world regarding the idea of going woke. Because if you look at the situations with Bud Light and Target and Disney, all the rest of them who have had really, for lack of a better phrase, a rough road over the last few years trying to deal with this issue. And I'm a little bit surprised that Nike would jump on board here. I don't know the specifics of the story, so I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah,
But
I'll get into some of them here in a minute, but you're exactly right, because you mentioned some really good ones there. Bud Light, Target, Disney, and in some way each one of those have tried to pull the nose up, or has tried to distance themselves from some of those decisions and actions that they've made in the past. We were giving Bud Light a lot of trouble because they deserved it. That, after all the backlash comes out about Dylan Mulvaney, that they make a Super Bowl commercial that features farmers and soldiers. That's okay, just put some soldiers and farmers in the next commercial, and everybody will be, we'll be okay. But at least it showed that they realized that they screwed up, and that they, had alienated a large portion of their customer base. Same thing with Target. They, were putting out the girls' swimsuits with boys wearing them and things, and in the ads and things like that. But
that's displaying them in their stores, in the front of their stores.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Once they got the backlash,
but
they
that
decided,
it disappeared quick. Yeah, that it disappeared quick. And you could say the same with some of the actions that Disney has taken recently, where it seems like they are getting away from the way that they were making movies and the way that they were behaving, in other areas here recently. But Nike hasn't really done that. And so just to get into some of this, as I mentioned, Ted Cruz has been sort of at the forefront of this, because he has been somebody who's been really critical of Nike for a long time, going back to the Colin Kaepernick days and the Betsy Ross shoe that never got made. He's been all over this. He posted on X today, quote, "Sad and predictable." Cruz posted on X where he reiterated that Nike's decision to nix its Betsy Ross themed shoe was how the company lost him years ago. He said, quote, "For my whole life, I wore nearly 100% Nike for athletic wear. Kaepernick pissed me off, but when they canceled the Betsy Ross shoe, it showed that their marketing plan was America hate. I went out and bought brand new shoes, shorts, and T-shirts. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Nike's stock price hit a 12-year low this week, dropping nearly 80%, Stell, since the company's all-time high in 2021. The years-long tumble downward saw nearly $200 billion in market value erased for the company, which 5 years ago saw its share price hit an all-time high of $177.51. Just a little bit of history here, what he's talking about with that Betsy Ross shoe, and I remember when this happened. In 2019, they were going to release a Betsy Ross shoe to celebrate the 4th of July, but Colin Kaepernick, he was the lead voice, and then others, chimed in as well, started a controversy with it, saying that the Betsy Ross shoe, which had like a Revolutionary Era flag on it, was a symbol that had been adopted by white nationalists and a reminder of a time when black people were enslaved. Do you think about that when you I've never heard that in my life, as that was the so after that, Nike canceled the release of this 4th of July American shoe. And again, that's just, there was a situation that was pointed out by Ted Cruz, but just an example of the actions that have led Nike to where they are now. 80% they've lost, and over $200 billion in market value erased from Nike. When I was a kid, still, Nike, you couldn't be a bigger company than Nike. They're supposed to be too big to fail, and yet they've found a way.
Oh, I can remember so many times going back to my hometown of Chicago and making a specific effort to try to visit Nike Town on Michigan Avenue every time we'd go up, because not only did they have a great selection of all their products, they had a special floor where tall guys and big guys could get clothing that was not shown on the regular floors. I think it was something like the 8th or 9th floor, and hardly anybody knew about it, but one of the salespeople mentioned it to me, and so Kathy and I went up there, and sure enough, they even had a special display, kind of a big and tall shop where you could get clothing. I'm about 6'5" or so, and so, trying to find clothing that fit pretty well and was comfortable wasn't that easy, and I always enjoyed Nike products. But now, I have to admit with you, I don't know if the corporate boardroom at Nike is going to react to this quick enough, because you look at Cracker Barrel and some of the others that were slow to respond, and finally Cracker Barrel understood that we need to make changes, and they did that on the corporate level and brought a whole bunch of stuff back onto the menu, and also on their logo. So
yeah.
I don't know what Nike's going to decide to do, but I agree with you that you can't afford to make mistakes like that and continue to have a successful company, even with the fact that Nike does dominate along with Adidas and some of the other brands, the sports field.
But I mean, I knew that they weren't as dominant as they once were, but I didn't realize the fall was so dramatic, losing 80% of their market value and stocks being at a 12-year low. It really shows you how much they have fallen, and they're big enough and popular enough to still recover. But this is what happens. This is what happens when you follow it. It will never be enough, Stell. That's the lesson that nobody ever seems to figure out.
You're right.
Politicians, social media influencers, companies, they think if they cave in or pander in a particular instance that, now they're gonna be their friend, and now they're gonna be on their team, and they're gonna leave them alone. And
it's never enough for the left.
It's never enough. It's never enough. They turn on politicians, they turn on companies, and Nike's learning that lesson the hard way. Hey, one more real quick while we're talking about the lies and failures of the progressive left. The co-chair of New York City's Democratic Socialists of America, the co-chair of the party, the Democrat Socialists of America in New York City, his name is Gustavo Gordillo. Gustavo Gordillo. He has been somebody who has made a reputation for, railing against the wealthy and, paying rent, and landlords and all the evil of rich people. It has been revealed that he lives in a $1.4 million Brooklyn townhome purchased and renovated by his parents.
Oh, the irony. Oh, my goodness.
He's a rich kid who doesn't even have to work because of daddy's money, living in a $1.4 million home in Brooklyn, which that is incredible. And he's the co-chair of the New York Democratic Socialists of America. They're all frauds, aren't they?
I hate to look down the road for New York City, but I'm almost scared to look down the road to see what's going to happen in that city with businesses that are leaving left and right, going to Miami and Florida and Dallas and Texas and Nashville and Tennessee and these other areas where they realize that they can at least operate with fewer restrictions and be able to have a profitable company instead of seeing all of their stuff go to taxes that they're paying in the state of New York and in the city of New York. I agree with you that, wow, to see somebody like that, and it's the same situation with the mayor, not really having any type of job before he wound up getting involved in politics in New York City. I agree with you.
Yeah, I hope voters across the country are watching. I hope they see what's happening in New York and realize that this is what happens if you follow that path. You end up looking like New York or Minneapolis, or Chicago,
or Seattle,
or
San Francisco.
Yeah, and the list goes on and on. But we'll see. I hope that's something that voters are learning as we get closer to the midterm elections. Stel Ponticus, producer Stel Babe, great to talk with you as always, my friend. Thanks for your time, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome stuff there from producer Stel. We are going to focus the conversation on some local issues as, speaking of those midterm elections, there's another round of really important local issues, races, amendments on the ballot in November, along with the, national implications of November's elections. And we're going to be joined by our Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd, to dig into it next.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. When the storm hits and a tree comes down, you need someone you can trust right now. OLI Outdoor Services in Godfrey is on call 24/7 for emergency tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, and land clearing. Serving Illinois and Missouri with licensed, insured professionals and over 200 years of combined experience. Tree removal starting at just $2.99. Free estimates, plus financing. Visit OLIOutdoorServices.com or call 1-888-5-SAWING.
Hi, it's Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the largest RE/MAX franchise in the region. The summer housing market is hot, and the fall market looks to be as hot. If buying or selling a home is in your future, it is time to act now. Someday is not a day on the calendar, but today is. Call me, Mark Harder, for fast results. RE/MAX Results, 314-852-8933, 314-852-8933, and start packing.
Dreaming about a vacation but not sure where to start? Should you book that all-inclusive resort or a cruise? Which destination? What cruise line? And how do you know you're getting the best value? That's where Magic Expeditions comes in. We're your St. Louis local travel experts, helping you choose the vacation that fits. Whether a relaxing, adults-only escape, family-friendly resort, or unforgettable cruise adventure, skip the stress, the guessing, and endless online searching. Visit MagicExpeditions.com. That's MagicExpeditions.com.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 119.94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo in the studio, and on the line with us now is our Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd is with us. And Rodney, just because we are past the primary elections doesn't mean that there's not still a lot of election talk and election preview happening across the state of Missouri and, of course, across the country as now we focus on the midterm elections coming up in November, and then, of course, the new session that follows, and it's endless. It never stops, the conversation about all these issues happening across the state. Thanks for your time, as always.
No, good to be with you, man. Good to be with you. We've covered a lot in this 2020, in this 2025, in this whole political cycle, and so now the dust is settling, and we'll have to just see where things land, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're starting the process, you know, around getting ready for next session. And obviously there's one more critical vote, which is the general election, before people will know ultimately who's going to be making the key decisions in Jeff City, and then they'll elect leadership. And that'll shape up next session, you know, which will obviously have to think about now tackling or maybe retackling issues in terms of tax policy and other things that just didn't get addressed or didn't get resolved in this interim.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some of the things that are coming up on the ballot in November, and some of the things that we think that are going to be focused on by Missouri politicians and Missouri voters in that election, but I think part of that is also learning from what you heard from voters in August and kind of a postmortem on the primary election season. Obviously, the catastrophic defeats of Amendments 4 and 5 are, you know, something that people are going to need to unpack and figure out why this happened and how do we avoid things like this in the future. Do you think that's the biggest takeaway moving out of the primary elections and moving forward into the new one is, you know, especially with Amendment 3, which I think is going to be the biggest, if not certainly one of the biggest local issues on the ballot in November, trying to learn a lesson from what happened with Amendments 4 and 5 and how to maybe communicate better with Missouri voters. Could that be one of the biggest takeaways?
I think that is the biggest takeaway. I think that people who are advancing local or statewide referendums now, the lesson is if you can't clearly articulate your message, your goal, your objective, and make it relevant to the voters, Missouri voters are probably going to vote no. And that gets to the idea of, in Missouri, we're very, very straightforward people. I mean, there's a reason why we're the show me state. And people want to know and understand what they're being asked to vote for, and they want clarity. And I think that if you can do that, you've got a better chance, Tony, at getting people to vote yes. But if you can't, if somebody opposes you or on the other side, all they've got to do is just raise their hand and say, hey, look, don't trust this. This isn't good for you. There's some shadowy things happening, and you don't know it. And that's an easier narrative for people to buy because trust has to be earned when people are going into the ballot box. So I think that is the takeaway. You have to really have the communication and the clarity and connect it to how it benefits or how it helps or improves the lives of the voters in a way that they can understand.
Because I think there's a direct correlation there with Amendment 3, because I believe that in 2024, when Amendment 3 failed, that a part of that was because people didn't completely understand all of the impact of Amendment 3. They only saw it as a yes or no on abortion, and they didn't, either didn't realize or know the extent of the other things in there about, it doesn't even have to be a doctor to perform an abortion procedure, or all the, the the youth hormone treatments, that were in, in allowing that to continue and how that was all wrapped up in there. I think that there was, a lack of communication or understanding. So I think that there's a direct line from what we saw with Amendment, especially Amendment 4, and Amendment 5. I think, there's people didn't fully understand the things that the impact of their vote on Amendment 3 in 2024, and I think is going to possibly play a role with Amendment 3 in 2026. Would you agree with that?
No, it's 100% right. And I think that the folks who are advancing those initiatives understand that, and in their post-mortem, if you will, I think they now wish they had gone back and invested the resources and the time in the approach that you're talking about, where you literally can educate people, right? Educate people fully on what you're trying to do, and once again, why it's good for them. Because it's one thing to tell me what you're trying to do or trying to accomplish in a policy change, whether it's on referendum petitions for the Constitution or whether it's on tax policy. You can explain it to me, but then you've got to do that other piece. You've got to explain it to me as to why this is good for me, why it's good for my family, and why I should vote for it. And it's got to be easy to comprehend. It can't be convoluted. It can't be too complicated, or people just won't buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, and we'll see how this plays out, because this is going to start. Any day now, we're going to start seeing ads about. It's not that far away, and we know how early people, the conversation around important elections can start. So I think another key to this is one of the where the ball was dropped tremendously on Amendments 4 and 5 is that they were behind. They were playing catch up the entire time, and that the no on 3, is going to be a well-funded, strong voice that's going to be out there. And if you allow them to establish their message first, then you're playing catch up, all the weeks leading up to the election. I think that was one of the things that we even discussed when it came to Amendment 4, that the pro Amendment 4 people during the primaries were, on the defensive at the beginning of the conversation, because the other side, led the conversation and dictated the way.
Yep, and I think that point is not lost on the proponents of Amendment 3, and if it is, it's going to be an uphill battle. I think you're right. The ads are going to start coming soon, but beyond the ads, people have to have this state of ours is very unique because we're bordered by 8 other states, and in a way that we sometimes are more attuned with what's happening in a neighboring state than in a different part of our own state. So when you're trying to message to Missouri voters why something is beneficial for them, it's not a one-size-fits-all. You've got to have a kind of a strategy for Southwest Missouri, Southeast Missouri, Northwest Missouri, Central Missouri. And I think that you can't take it for granted that everybody's going to receive the same message from the same perspective in Missouri. I think that was one of the mistakes that was made on the tax campaign and on the initiative petition campaign, because people in this state are a little bit more nuanced. We're Missourians, no doubt about it, but we're very, very parochial sometimes in how we see the world and how we see policy impacting our part of the state.
Do you think that the national impact and the vote for Congress and Senate and making sure, whatever side you're on, to ensure that, the Republicans, we do everything we can to ensure Republicans hold the House and the Senate in Washington, D.C., or vice versa if you're a Democrat. Do you think that is more of the pull to the November elections for Missouri voters, or will Amendment 3 and other local issues be so top of mind and top of the conversation when we get to November?
I think 3 is going to definitely be top of mind. I think because it's an issue that commands a lot of emotion on both sides. So I think it'll be, and because we don't really have a big ticket race at the top, we don't have a governor's race, or we don't have a big U.S. Senate race. We don't have a statewide race that's driving different constituencies out. We just don't. So I think what you're going to see is Amendment 3 is going to be the driver.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the thing that gets people out the door one way or another. And I think this is why the messaging around that campaign is going to be so critical.
And we're talking to our Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd. Only a couple of minutes left here. And, you know, in the coming weeks, of course, we're going to dig into more of the details because I want to talk about Amendment 3 and exactly all of the like we just mentioned, you know, all of the pieces of this legislation, you know, all the things that it does outside of, you know, the abortion piece of it, because it is something that it needs to be unpacked and understood. And, you know, we're going to dig into that and dig into the specifics of the other races on the November ballot as we get a little bit closer. But for now, Rodney, as it stands, after we've had a couple weeks to digest the primary election and we prepare to head into November and then obviously head into January, into the new legislative session. After that, you saw the two big pieces of legislation, the two big amendments that were backed by Missouri Republicans fail tremendously. But at the same time, you also saw mostly, you know, with just a couple of exceptions out there, mostly the incumbent Republicans winning their elections, the ones that were primaried, you know, by quite a bit of a margin. So there's, well, you look at Amendment 3 or Amendments 4 and 5 as a failure. There was a lot of that you could take away as a Missouri Republican that showed the voters showing a lot of confidence in Missouri Republicans. As it stands right now, if you are a Missouri Republican, are you comfortable and confident about moving forward in Missouri, or are you nervous about the future and, you know, the direction of the party?
Look, I think Missouri Republican candidates are feeling particularly strong because there's not a scenario where they don't continue to control a supermajority in the legislature and literally every elected office across the state. So yeah, you're strong. I think the challenge is going to be rallying around a set of policy principles that actually deal with the budget shortfall that the state is facing, the need to deal with state infrastructure, the need to deal with sort of competing with other states for corporate opportunities, and that means creating a workforce and talent. So I think the first part of the answer is, yeah, if you're a Republican elected official, you are feeling good about knowing that you're going to still control and have the ability to dictate the policy. Where it all really gets complicated and where the inter-party conversations are going to center, I think, from November the 5th until we get back to Jeff City, just at the state level, is what are the real policy goals and objectives that are going to be agreed to, that can be advanced in Jeff City, that will move this state forward. Yeah. That's, I think, where the center of gravity is going to be.
Absolutely, and that's going to be something that we talk a lot about in the coming months. You know, a decision has to be made after Amendment 4 and Amendment 5 failing. Is it time to walk away from IP reform? Is it time to walk away from the income tax and maybe focus on personal property tax? Do Republicans take another run at those two issues? It's going to be really interesting stuff. And Rodney Boyd, we really appreciate your part of the conversation and helping us to understand all of these issues facing the state of Missouri. Thanks for your time as always, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Okay.
Yeah, you bet. We're going to open up Close's Cabinet. Have a little fun with Mark Close from KSHE next.
Got scrap metal, junk cars, or old appliances taking up space? Turn that clutter into cash. Since 1968, 21 Recycling and Scrap Metal has been the area's trusted name for recycling. We buy copper, brass, aluminum cans, scrap iron, wheels, catalytic converters, AC units, water heaters, washers, dryers, and yes, junk cars too. With our brand new truck scale on premises, getting paid is fast and easy. Old Highway 21 by Highway M or 21-recycling.com.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Tim Jones here for Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. They've helped me recover from day-to-day aches and pains for years. And here's something special, personal training programs. Whether you're an athlete committed to increasing performance, recovering from an injury, or just want to get healthier and lose weight, their personal training programs will help you reach your goals and stay there. Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, online at cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Hour at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Big victory for President Trump yesterday on primary Tuesday in the state of Florida. That's where U.S. Representative Byron Donalds won the Republican nomination for Florida governor, and former Representative David Jolly picked up the Democrat nomination. That all sets the stage for a fall campaign to replace the state's popular but term-limited Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. Florida's special Democrat primary race for the U.S. Senate, meanwhile, saw retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman come up short, drawing a response from the White House.
President Trump posting on his Truth Social page, sleazebag Vindman loses tonight to a radical left lunatic. How cool is that? Vindman was a Trump impeachment witness. He got beat by Democrat Socialist candidate Congresswoman Angie Nixon. She will face Republican Senator Ashley Moody, who was the state attorney general and appointed to the Senate seat by Governor DeSantis when Marco Rubio was selected by the president to be Secretary of State.
That is Laura Winters reporting the president is giving a new update on the situation in the Middle East. We get more from correspondent Willie Nelson.
President Trump says there are no talks or conversations underway with Iran. The president confirmed the naval blockade remains in full force while the Strait of Hormuz is open and operating. The president noted all water mines in the area have been removed or detonated. In another message, the president labeled the Strait of Hormuz as a new U.S. territory. Willie Nelson, Washington.
President Trump said on Tuesday he was delaying that 50% U.S. tariff on $20 billion worth of Canadian imports. That's after the two countries managed to reach a last-minute deal less than 2 hours before the sanctions were set to go into effect at midnight Eastern Time.
Those sanctions are now delayed, buying time for more negotiations and avoiding, for now, yet another strain in already tense relations between historic allies. Ben Thomas, Washington.
For these stories at Town Hall.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney, and the truth is I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-926-5959. That's 800-926-5959. 800-926-5959.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We'll watch for an isolated thunderstorm through this evening and even a little after midnight, but it'll be dry by Thursday morning with a low of 70 degrees, a high of 84 in the afternoon. Clouds, maybe a little fog in the morning, but then turning partly to mostly sunny in the afternoon. Friday, mostly sunny, near normal, hot and muggy with a high of 87 degrees. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Little ZZ Top to open up Close's Cabinet this week on Columbo and Company. Close's Cabinet featuring Mark Close from KC95, brought to you by Weber Chevrolet. Unfortunately, Skip Weber unable to join us this week, but Mark Close from KC95 is on the line with us. Marker, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I am good. Unfortunately, featuring some ZZ Top here at the beginning of the segment to honor the life of Frank Beard, the longtime drummer, but, and you can fill us in on this, not the original drummer of ZZ Top, but the guy that was there for all the hits and the most recognizable drummer with the band. Am I right about that? That's
Yes.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that he was not the original drummer until reading all these stories today.
Well, first of all, before they were ZZ Top, I think they called themselves Moving Sidewalks for a while, which was an early name, and they got rid of that. That was good. And then they had Dusty on bass and Billy Gibbons lead guitar and singer for the most of it. And so Frank came in a little bit later, but you're right. It was one of those where, it's kind of like the Beatles, Ringo Starr wasn't the original drummer, but when they started getting their accolades, and then he was on board and worked out. So when you look at, they were together as that three-piece for over 50 years. So that's a pretty good run when you think about it. And then Dusty Hill, whose real name is Joe Hill, they just called Dusty, the bass player. He died back in 21, and he had been sick, and he knew he wasn't going to make it. And he told the other two guys in the band, keep the name going. And they brought in, was it Elwood? He was their guitar tech, and they just kind of just put him in bass, and he grew the beard.
Elwood Francis, is that his name? I think that's his name. Yeah. Yep.
So he's been playing now. The next question that comes is that now you've got basically one original guy from the main time. Will Billy Gibbons keep that name going, or will he goes out as the Billy Gibbons Band too on his own? So we're talking about it today on the air about he might just call himself the Billy Gibbons Band and play a bunch of a bunch of top.
Sure.
He owns the name, so he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and then of course we've talked about this a lot. Does it count? If you go see ZZ Top now, does it count? Does it count? Do you get to say you saw ZZ Top? Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure that you do. But sad to see that Frank Beard passed away, 77 years old. Also, the irony, which I've always thought was funny, the guy's name is Frank Beard. And he's the only one in the band without a big beard. Long beard.
No beard. Yeah. Well, it's funny. They told the story. Billy Gibbons was being interviewed by Dan Rather, and he goes, "What's the story with the beards?" And he goes, "Early on in their career, if you see picture of these guys, we brought them in to the Airway Drive-In up in North County for a free show. Casey did 1,000,000 years ago. Wouldn't recognize them at all. It was pre-beard." So they're playing a whole bunch early on, doing their records and touring, and they decided to go on a hiatus. 6 months, take a vacation. 6 months turned into a year, and I think it might have went a total of 2 years. So that whole time, Billy and Dusty start growing these big beards, and they're, what the hell, we're just going to keep them, and it kind of became a trademark of the band. And Frank, for whatever reason, every once in a while you'd see a little stubble, but none of that crazy, crazy growth that the other guys had and stuff. So it kind of was their calling card and stuff. So it'll be, to see if they keep the name intact
Mm-hmm.
of ZZ Top or, how are they? I mean, like I said, he owns the right. I never thought Rush should go back out again after Neil Peart, the professor on drums, after he passed away. I never thought they'd use that, but they came out. They got this young lady from Germany who is amazing, and it's their band. They can do what they want, right? As long as they're bringing the music and doing it good. And even the bands that are out there, whether they got original guys, and there's a ton of them. Well, they had a show a couple weeks ago, I guess it was. Was Foreigner and Leonard Skinner out at Hollywood Casino. Neither one of the band had any original members. Neither one. And they sounded great. They did a great job.
But aren't they just tribute bands at that point?
Yeah, kind of.
And shouldn't they be labeled as that? But hey, listen, I know some tribute bands that are freaking incredible. El Monstero, Somebody to Love. I mean, we got a couple of them right here in St. Louis. So I'm not taking a shot at tribute bands, but yeah, isn't that just a tribute band once there's nobody, from the original lineup in the group anymore?
It kind of, like I said, it kind of comes down to somebody owns the right to that name.
Yeah.
And Little River Band, it's been out touring. Now, the one guy, Wayne, the bass player, has been with them 35 years, but he's not an original member. But, Foghat, their drummer, is the only original guy in the band, and we know how useless drummers are. So it's like, but you're right, and at least they're smart enough, and that seems to have changed in the last maybe 15, 20 years. When they go out, either as a tribute band or like the band with one or no original, they bring it. They ain't half-assing it, man. They do a really good job, and they sound really good, and they get a lot of players that can sound pretty close to what, you can emulate guitar and bass and all that. Vocals, a little more difficult, because if you get a guy that's got a certain vocal style, you get close to him. You may not be able to nail it completely, but like I said, I have not been to one of those kind of shows, whether it's a tribute or a band show that still uses the name, and been disappointed in the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good, and that's the way it should be. So that's good. Last thing, exactly. Last thing about ZZ Top, because we always, when something like this happens, we look back at a band's legacy and where they're at and historically. I think that it's I think that with ZZ Top, I think that that it's about right. I don't think that they're underrated because I think everybody knows ZZ Top and appreciates ZZ Top. I don't put them at the very top tier, but I think that they get. I don't think that they are. I don't think that they're forgotten to time or underrated, and I also don't think that they are, blown out of proportion as some other bands are, especially ones that have, passed away early or broke up early. Their reputations can get a bit inflated. Would you agree with that? Is ZZ Top get about the accolades that they deserve?
Yeah, I mean they were always kind of an FM rock type, early on, and then MTV came around, and they had synthesizers to their music. Pearl Necklace, Sharp Dressed Man.
Yeah.
Incredible videos with the women and the coupe Ford. I'm not sure.
The car, the beards, the guitars, that spin. Like they knew how to do right. Yeah, they knew how to pump up the gimmick.
Right, and they introduced themselves to maybe a second generation of fans, but. Yeah, I would never put them like in the top 10% cusp of bands,
right.
But they were right below it. And they, I've seen them a couple times early on, like I said, and then I saw them, 6-7 years ago out at Hollywood, and they did a great job, and they put on a great show, So
yeah. You know what? One thing you could say about ZZ Top, at least in my experience, as a DJ, a wedding DJ, doing parties and things like that over the years. ZZ Top is one of those bands that you can put on, and it may not be everybody's favorite, but everybody likes it. They're like you're safe with a ZZ Top song. When it comes to keeping a group happy, which I think is I think that's quite the compliment that everybody likes you.
Yeah,
and I think that goes for ZZ Top.
No, I agree. Agreed 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Mark Close from KC95. It's Close's Cabinet here on Columbo and Company. All right, I got some good stuff this week. There's a lot going on in this crazy world. You know what? First, let's. I was going to ask you before we get off the music stuff. Guns N' Roses this past weekend at Busch Stadium. All the hoopla about them coming, and then unfortunately, I think it got cut short a little bit by rain. I had a couple friends that were there. It sounded like, outside the disappointment of the rain, it was a pretty good show. What did you hear? Were you there, or what did you hear about the Guns N' Roses show at Busch this past weekend?
I was not there. I was sitting here in my den. We had played a gig earlier that day on that Sunday, and I saw the lightning through my skylights, and I'm thinking, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then you heard it roll in, so they had to cut it short. Richard Fortas from St. Louis got to play at Busch Stadium in front of his hometown. That's pretty cool. I heard Slash was dead on. I heard mixed reviews about Axl. He behaved. He behaved.
Yeah, right. No riot. That's good.
But his vocals, he's 61 years old, so things aren't going to be what they used to be. Now, I know that they did a reduction in ticket prices. They had tickets for $11 a pop to get in.
Oh, wow.
And that was much, but it's, this has been a rough year, man. What do they call it? The blue dots, where you go and look at the seat set up in bands, and you see all the seats that aren't sold. And there's a lot of big bands that plan to go out on tour and just got nowhere and said, screw it. And they canceled their entire tour. So, but when you're dropping $175, $200 for a ticket, somebody said they went, and a friend of mine's brother went, and 56, this is at Guns N' Roses Sunday night at Busch Stadium, $56 to park.
Oh.
And then bought 2 beers and nachos, and that was $56. So I hope they got the tickets for $11, because they're going to be broke otherwise. And there's got to be, I don't care whether it's professional sports or music or whatever, there's got to be a line in the sand.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, people are just not going to cross.
Yeah.
It's going to be, but I mean, look at all the crazy, what was it, New York with the basketball, $15,000 tickets for the playoffs, and Stanley Cup in 19 in St. Louis. And I'm sure Belle Reeves got the golf tournament going on right now, and that final day, Sunday, the finals of that, there's going to be some crazy ass ticket prices going out the door on that one. I ain't one of them, but it's it's supply and demand, and sooner or later people are just, I would think they're going to go, nah, never mind.
Well, that opens up the whole can of worms that's been going on for years with the monopoly of Ticketmaster. I mean, there's no other, it's like, there's no other game in town. And even these artists at some level are beholden to that. Pearl Jam, in the 90s tried to fight.
Beat 'em.
Yeah.
Tried to beat 'em.
And had such a hard time. Yeah. They couldn't book tours. They couldn't get into venues. They couldn't play live. They gave Ticketmaster the biggest fight that they have had. But in the end, Ticketmaster won.
They won.
And it's across the board. I've talked about this a year ago, last February. I think it was I think it was February, whatever. It was last spring, early last year, 2025. The WWE, my son is into wrestling, and the WWE had one of their big pay-per-views here. It was called Backlash, and, one of the big premium events that they do. And the tickets in the nosebleeds at Enterprise Center, where the Blues play, were $100 down at the top. At the down low, they were literally over $1,000 to be, ringside. I mean, it's across the board. It's like you mentioned, all the music acts, entertainment, sports. They're going to drive people away, and I think that because there has been such an embrace, I think I don't know if COVID did it or what exactly sparked it. But over the last several years, there's been a big resurgence of people going to live events and live shows, and we've seen a lot of support for live music, here in St. Louis and across the country. But I think these I think these venues and these agencies and, you know, Ticketmaster and sports leagues and places like the WWE are trying to take advantage of that surge, and they're going to price people out. And good for people to not go. I mean, I hate to do that to the bands. I hate to do that to the performers that, you know, maybe don't deserve it. But we got to stop paying those prices. Otherwise, they're just going to keep on jacking them up.
Well, and it hasn't. Look at the World Cup. Look at the numbers on that.
Yeah.
They were, in the beginning, like at L.A. and certain cities, they weren't selling. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 the money came in and they sold. And as long as there's a percentage of the population that will pay those inflated prices, you know, I got to be – if I'm a businessman and I got a product and I can keep jacking the rate up and people keep paying it, I ain't going to lower it.
Right,
Why
exactly. Well, and you just brought something up there, too. A lot of these places aren't even targeting the average person anymore. They're not even interested in the family of four.
Right.
They are targeting the premium. They want to make their event, even, you know, every seat, not just like the luxury boxes and the suites in the front row. They want the entire event to be looked at as a premium experience. And so you're paying a premium price.
Right.
I just don't know. I just don't see how the audience could be. I don't see how that could give you enough customers if you're only targeting people that are willing to spend that kind of money for an experience, you know, and pricing out the average family, the average person. But that has been the strategy, unfortunately.
No, I agree. And until, like you said, until that line, somebody decides enough people decide not to cross that line in the sand, it's going to keep going up. Yeah. It's just all the way it is. So, yeah.
All right. As I mentioned, I got a couple good stories here that I wanted to get into as we talked to Mark Close from KC95. Close's Cabinet, brought to you by Weber Chevrolet here on Colombo and Company. Have you ever had a run-in with a HOA? You seem like the kind of guy that may have either represented an HOA or had a brush with an HOA at some point.
You know what?
I don't know why. I don't know why you give that vibe, but you do.
I get along with everybody. The first place I ever bought was a condo a million years ago, and it had an HOA, and back then it was probably $80 a month. Ridiculous. Now they can be a little costly. I have not had a run-in, and I lived in one community subdivision where we had a pool and stuff, and you paid the indenture or whatever you want to call it every year, and that was fine. But yeah, but I mean, it's, the majority rules on one of those kind of things, or the board gets together and they decide, all right, everybody paints their whatever, this condo purple.
Yeah, right.
And you all pay for it. You got to go with, consensus lead. So, yeah.
So this is a great one. And I looked, it doesn't say where this is at, but you can see the video. And it looks very like southwestern. It looks very more like kind of a desert area or a hot, area, whatever. Which may play into this a little bit. A woman has gone super viral for posting videos and depicting her struggle with her HOA because she has dead bushes in front of her house. Right. The bushes are there, but they're brown and dead. So she's been getting, I don't know if it's daily, but it's multiple. It's a recurring $45 penalty for having dead bushes in front of her house. So how did she handle it?
She painted them.
She painted them with a can of green spray paint.
Yep, painted them green.
A can of green spray paint so they don't look dead. It doesn't say, she just has done the painting. So we haven't seen yet whether or not this is going to appease the HOA. But hey,
whatever works.
If that works.
It's interesting too, because usually in most condos and villas and all that, the outside, well, obviously, the landscaping is usually covered. That's part of your HOA. So, in fact,
Yeah.
If you want to plant something, you've got to get the okay from the HOA before you add anything else. Now it varies, because usually HOA is like they take care of your lawn and all that in the streets. Some have pools, pickleball, tennis, and all that. Some don't. Still rates are high. But normally, the exterior of the property you can't mess with.
Right.
It's like you can't paint your front door purple. Not and that's the whole idea. So that I guess if you buy something, the Yahoo across the street doesn't paint his house checkerboard or something like that. But that's the whole idea is that they keep it under control. So yeah, that's weird with the plants that she's even responsible for them and getting rung up on it, even worse. So
yeah, absolutely. This is a fun one. A survey was just done.
Oh boy.
About the best and worst drivers in America and the kind of car that they drive. So, for example, BMW, Ram, and Tesla have the worst drivers in the country, according to this survey. Do you know anybody that drives a BMW, Ram, or Tesla, and are they a bad driver? Just check out.
Yeah, I know two, the Ram and the Tesla, and they seem to be pretty good drivers. Yeah, I don't BMW. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that would. I do. I mean, I understand too. As far as bad drivers, I do know that it equates to that the older you are, the bigger the car you get.
Sure.
And you can't see over the steering wheel. You can just see the tops of their hands on the steering wheel, and some little 4'8" woman gets out of like some land yacht.
Yeah.
And
or you open the door and it's like got a 4-foot wingspan.
Exactly. And they know to stop when they run into something. When they run, all right, it's time to stop. So yeah, that I believe.
Well, they looked at 30 different car manufacturers, and as I said, BMW, Ram, and Tesla are the worst drivers. The rest of the top 10: Volkswagen, Subaru, Infiniti, Audi, Mazda, Honda, and Toyota. Man, I'll tell you what. I mean, Audi, Infiniti, Tesla, BMW. A lot of the high end. Got a lot of high end folks out there.
Yeah, and they don't like imports apparently.
Yeah, right. Best drivers. The best drivers drive Chrysler. That's number one. Cadillac and Mercury. That's the top 3 of the best drivers. Weird, right? Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and how many Mercuries and Chryslers are there even floating around?
Right, that's what I thought too. I was like, Mercury, Chrysler, Ford and Chevy. We got with the Weber Automotive Group. They're dead in the middle of this. 19 and 20, respectively. Ford and 19, Chevrolet 20. So kind of right in the middle of all of these. Chrysler, Cadillac, Mercury, and then Pontiac, Lincoln, and Buick are the top. Those are the best drivers. GMC is up there near the top. So is Dodge. Wait a minute. Isn't Dodge and Ram the same thing?
Yeah, it's part of the same company. And Pontiac doesn't exist anymore. Pontiac's gone.
Right. Yeah, right.
It's old Pontiac.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but this and GMC is also Chevy, so GMC's listed on here separately than Chevrolet. But yeah, Dodge is one of the best. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dodge is the 6th best drivers, and Ram is the 2nd worst drivers.
Right. Well, Ram's the pickup division.
Yeah, I guess it's just the trucks.
Right.
Interesting.
And then you got to be careful. You get some of these cats, and I know you got a pickup truck, you got a smaller version, but some of these guys get these 4-door with the 8 or 10 foot bed on the back, and you better get the hell out of the way because they'll roll right over you.
Yeah, some people need those for work, but the ones that don't, they're overcompensating for something. But keep this in mind. My daughter's boyfriend drives a BMW. I need to be careful. Gotta watch
Yeah.
this kid.
Him
'Cause that's
out.
number
Check
one.
him-
Yeah, that's number one on the list here. So,
Mm.
yeah, got to keep it. Yeah, got to keep a close eye on that. Last one here. Most popular soda in every state. What's your favorite soda, Mark?
Diet Coke, caffeine-free Diet Coke in the gold can. So, I'm very specific on my soda.
Yeah, you are. I don't think the caffeine free made it, but Diet Coke is the favorite soda in 4 states, including Illinois. What's interesting is Coca-Cola is only the favorite soda in 3 states. They're not. Yeah, you'd think like Coke or Pepsi. I think Pepsi's only in 1. Yeah, only in 1.
Right.
So yeah, the 2 big ones that you usually think of are not necessarily the most popular. You know who's dominant? You got to guess on who is the biggest. The soda that is the favorite in the most states, including Missouri.
Mountain Dew.
Dr. Pepper.
See, now that.
Uh-oh.
That, yeah.
You touch a nerve?
Well, no, if you look at the favorite and then put the favorite up against sales, Diet Coke is the number 1 soda selling in this country by far. And then I think Coke comes after that, and maybe Pepsi, and then Coke Zero, and all that stuff. So I would bet, man, Dr. Pepper might not even be in the top 10 of the top selling sodas in the country.
Is the number one favorite soda in 17 states, according to this survey. Nobody else is even close. As I said, Coke is only in 3. Pepsi's only in 1, and it's Delaware. Delaware.
It might be their favorite, but they must be drinking 1 soda a year because it doesn't show up in sales. Hell, man, you can go to a lot of places. Every place you go, and they do that too. It's like it's either a Coke house or
Pepsi,
and whoever works out the best deal. That's what they gotta. I don't know, what is the ballpark, baseball park? Is that Coke or is that Pepsi?
I think it's Coke. It's been a while since I've been to a game, but I think it's Coke. Yeah.
But there's some big restaurant chains and all that. They offer them such a good deal.
Yeah, it might be Pepsi. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, Diet Pepsi and Coke is Sprite, and then Pepsi has got, what is Pepsi's lemon lime? They got a lemon lime.
Oh, is it Starry? I know they're the ones that made Starry.
Yeah.
Didn't they get rid of? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then ask about, go out somewhere and ask for 7-Up, and people look at you like like you got horns coming out of your head. There's so many people that, if you try to get 7-Up on tap somewhere, you'd be hard pressed. Although in California they've got it at In-N-Out Burgers, because Beaner, Caitlin, drinks that, and it's available there. So what's their favorite and what's the top seller, I think, are 2 different lists.
Did you see? It's amazing that you just invoked 7-Up. Did you see the big announcement that 7-Up made last week?
Mm-mm.
Big announcement that they are changing their formula.
Really?
They're changing the formula of 7-Up, and this, I can't wait to get your reaction to this. I don't have it in front of me anymore. I talked about it on the show one day last week, but they had their official statement from 7-Up, and this is basically what it said. I'm paraphrasing just a little bit. It said, we're shifting for listening to our, our customers. 7-Up has been a lemon lime soda for a very long time, but now they want you to know that they are a lime lemon soda.
Oh, God. Oh.
They're switching from being a lemon lime soda to a lime lemon soda. Very important distinction there, Mark.
Absolutely. Unless they're going to put in twice as much lime as they did before. I know. And people, look at New Coke, how bad that went down when they changed that. That almost ran those guys out of business and stuff. But the saddest story of all, talking about beverages,
Mhm.
is that Schlitz is no more. The beer that made Milwaukee famous is, except for the what's the real heavy stuff, the Schlitz malt liquor.
Oh, yeah,
They're
yeah.
gonna keep making that. But the regular Schlitz beer, after like 130 years, something like that, it's gone. It just is going to beer heaven.
Maybe they should have considered updating their formula.
Yeah,
Like the
that's
fine
right.
people at 7-Up.
Instead of hops and barley, it's barley and hops. There you go. That would have saved them. That would have saved them.
One more
Oh,
funny thing from this list of sodas here. As I said, Dr. Pepper's #1 with a bullet. They're #1 in 17 states, including Missouri. Coca-Cola is only the favorite in 3, which is Florida, Georgia, and Louisiana. Diet Coke is the favorite in 4 states: Massachusetts, Utah, Illinois, and Washington. New York, along with all of its other issues these days, the #1 soda in New York is Schweppes Ginger Ale.
Come on. Come on.
What? Schweppes Ginger Ale. And
Ginger ale is nobody's favorite, much less, but
I don't even know what this is. Verner's Ginger
Verner's,
Ale
yeah.
is the top
Verner's,
soda
I-
in Michigan. So
I think Verner's, it's a small soda, and it's out of like the Detroit area. We used to have a sister station in Detroit.
well, they're big. They're big there.
And it's kind of, it might indeed be kind of like a lemon lime and a Mountain Dew.
Lemon lime or
Mellow
lime
yellow
lemon?
kind of style maybe in that area. So,
Lemon lime or lime lemon? Because there's a big
Dumb.
difference.
Dumb.
Margaret, before we let you go, what's happening at
I love
KC? What's going on with the band? What do we need to let folks know about? You hear me? You still there? Did we chase him away with the lemon lime lemon? Oh, well, we'll just have to get an update from Mark on what's going on with the band next time. Need to remind you, of course, Closest Cabinet brought to you by Weber Chevrolet. Weber Chevrolet, #1 in St. Louis for sure, because they have been around for nearly 125 years. Weber Chevrolet about to celebrate their 125th anniversary, which is just absolutely incredible. Just proves their dedication to customer service. You don't stick around for 125 years in the same community if you are not doing right by your customer. Nobody's going to give you a better deal on a new vehicle or a used vehicle. Nobody's going to give you more on your trade-in than Weber Chevrolet, and nobody's going to take care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you have it more than the team at Weber Chevrolet. Check out what's happening at all 3 local Weber Chevrolet dealerships. We've got Creve Coeur in Missouri, Granite City, and Columbia in Illinois, just by going to the website WeberChevrolet.com. All right, I mentioned that the WNBA is making a lot of news this week. I want to dig into that story and more as we continue here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Fox News commentary with Craig Gutfeld. Next.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's NobleGoldInvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Here's Greg Gutfeld.
You're for having police, they're for getting rid of them. That's not symmetrical, because their stance discards the entire aim of fighting crime. Binary opposition works fine when the two things actually live in the same neighborhood. We want a police force versus we want no police at all. That's not a binary. That's one guy talking about how to fight crime while the other guy is claiming crime is a food group. So when you allow the left's ideas into a neat little left-right scale, more cops, zero cops, you're letting an arsonist interview for the job of being the fire chief. And the person who wants police looks as extreme as the person who doesn't. It's same for the border. You're for a border, they aren't. Looks like a classic binary. Two sides, same debate. Let's meet in the middle, somewhere between a wall and a welcome wagon. Except it's not.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson. Mario's Donut Restaurant, that's your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches, omelets, delicious gyros, and Mexican dishes, to their revamped menu with cannolis, tiramisu, baklava, and danishes. And don't forget those famous donuts. Dine in or carry out, Mario's friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit, or just visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
Is your retirement income at risk if you or your spouse needs nursing home or in-home care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. The cost of long-term care is one of the biggest risks in retirement planning. For many retirees, a single nursing home stay can cause a significant reduction in assets that can permanently reduce your retirement income. Fortunately, there are affordable and flexible options available today that can help you manage the cost of long-term care. Our team can help you address the risks relevant to your retirement, including long-term care. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Today, the story behind the story, the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Thanks again to Mark Close from KC95. Close's cabin. And in that last segment, talked to producer Stell and our Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd in the 2 o'clock hour this afternoon. If you missed any of it, go back and check out our podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. It's the best way to make sure you never miss anything on the show. We put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day on basically every podcast platform. So wherever you get platforms on that platform, it says the word platform a lot there. Just subscribe to Colombo and Company. You get it. So there's been a lot going on with the WNBA. I touched on this the other day, that I've never seen a league try so hard to destroy itself. You know what? This kind of ties into the conversation we had at the beginning of the show about Nike being at a 12-year low in stock price. They've lost 80% of their market value. Nike has, largely, according to the experts and people paying attention, largely to embracing the woke culture and trying to appease, the extreme progressives that are so loud in politics and social media these days, and it's just gutted Nike. Same thing's happening with the WNBA, and it was taken to a new level, the madness, today. Former NBA player and men's college basketball star Royce White has officially declared for the WNBA draft. White's notice of draft declaration was signed Monday of this week and sent to the WNBA league office. As seen in a copy obtained by Fox News Digital, who released this earlier today, the declaration was signed by White's legal counsel, former Congressman Matt Gaetz, remember him? Quote, as of the signing of the attached declaration, Miss White identifies as a transgender woman consistent with Article 13, Section 1A of the 2026 through 2033 collective bargaining agreement between the WNBA and the WNBPA, which I think is the players' union. Miss White affirms her eligibility to be considered for selection on that basis, the letter said. Continuing, quote, Miss White further affirms, consistent with all of that in the agreement, that she will be at least 22 years of age during the calendar year of the draft and has no remaining intercollegiate eligibility. We respectively request written confirmation of the league's receipt of this notice within 10 business days of the date above, and a written determination of Miss White's eligibility status, including the basis for any determination at the league's earliest opportunity. We appreciate your attention to this matter. Royce White, who is a man who played, again, he was a college star and played in the NBA, is doing this to prove a point. And he put out his own statement saying that he would be declaring for the WNBA draft last week, saying, quote, I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I identify, sometimes identifying as a woman for the purpose of basketball, professional basketball. So I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027 as well. White said that the league, the WNBA, could end this ridiculousness and his challenge and attempt to join the league by simply stating its position plainly on the subject of men playing in women's sports. So we'll see. You may or may not agree with the tactics of this, or somebody making a spectacle or putting the spotlight on themselves, but it certainly brings to light in an undeniable fashion the madness of the men playing women's sports issue and just how ridiculous it is. We did a story last year about, I believe it's still held the record, the female there's a female weightlifting record in Canada that's held by a man who was proving a point, a male bodybuilder, weightlifter, who went to all you had to do was, the rules were simply, if you just identify as a woman, you're allowed to compete. So he shows up, he's got his big beard, manly man, says, yeah, I identify as a woman, and shatters the all-time record for whatever event they were in. Again, just to prove a point of how ridiculous this is. But yeah, that's the state of the WNBA. And believe it or not, that's the least of their problems. They've got other controversies that are plaguing that league in a big way that we'll continue to keep an eye on and talk about in the coming weeks and days. Before we run out of time this afternoon, actually, we're going to, we had some fun time there with Close's Cabinet. Another amazing story, and we're going to bring in producer Joey V from the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, which takes over here in about 13 minutes. Joey V is our movie reviewer. You can hear his weekly movie reviews every Friday afternoon on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. I know he's talked about, and it's been all over the news, just what a runaway smash hit Spider-Man Brand New Day is. You will not believe how much that movie's star is going to make. Just one man making off of this movie. And how this ties into the larger conversation of, hey, look, they made a superhero movie about a superhero and didn't put in a whole lot of pandering or political messaging, and it's a runaway hit. So Joey V is going to join us to talk about that as we get you ready for the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. You're listening to Colombo and Company here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer. and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures. That what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now, 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
You know, you make me feel so good inside. I've always wanted a girl just like you.
Welcome back to Columbo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Columbo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and now we are joined by producer Joey V from the Tim Jones and Chris Harp Show, our in-house movie reviewer. Looking snazzy today. Looking snappy there, buddy.
Thank you. We had Elliot Davis on the Right Mind Show, and he always wears a trench coat and a necktie and a suit, so we dressed up as him, and I don't know if he liked it, but listen on Saturday at 5 p.m.
Yeah. Also the producer of the Right Mind Show, Todd Showalter, Saturdays at 5 here on News Talk STL. I know you've talked about Spider-Man Brand New Day on Tim and Chris's show, but this story that came out today, or at least I'm seeing it for the first time today, is pretty amazing. Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man and has been playing Spider-Man for, this last several years of the MCU.
This is the first time where we've had Spider-Man 3 times in a row and then a fourth time because we had Tobey Maguire 3 and then they just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had Garfield twice and they just stopped. And this is finally the fourth Spider-Man movie. It's a record.
And he is going to make, likely when it's all said and done, over $100 million. Just Tom Holland, just Spider-Man. $100 million from this one film.
He must have good negotiators.
I mean, is that, in your opinion, is that an accolade of Tom Holland? Is it more about Tom Holland, or is it more about the character of Spider-Man, that this movie is so popular and that he's able to? I mean, why would you ever play any other character or do anything for the rest of your life if you can make $100 million a pop?
It's probably
Spider-Man.
Both where Marvel is just stuck, especially the Sony wing of Marvel is just stuck where nothing's working. The Kraven the Hunter, who cares? Madam Web, who cares? They need Tom Holland to make these $2 billion profits when you're talking about the Sony wing. This reminds me of Batman 1989. Jack Nicholson, he signed up to be the Joker, was only asking $6 million, and then he got a cut of the merchandise and the profits. He made $100 million.
And that's what this is about, right? Because Tom Holland got paid a $20 million salary to make this movie, but he's got all kinds of attachments to the royalties, to the merchandise, and everything else that's adding up to over $100 million.
And you can tell based on how much marketing someone does for a movie, how much they're going to get on the back end. When you see Tom Holland and Zendaya on Hot Ones or all these other stupid YouTube shows, you're like, I think they're a little invested in this.
Right. Is this also a reflection of, because I saw the movie, and we're not going to spoil anything, but I really enjoyed it. And I've been very critical of the MCU and just movie making, especially superhero movies, in recent times because of all of the messaging and changing of characters and all that. Do you think that part of the reason that this movie has been so successful is because it doesn't seem like the studios are trying to preach a message? It's freaking Spider-Man. It's just a superhero movie, good guys fighting bad guys, the way it's supposed to be, instead of some of the other politics that have seeped into especially superhero movies in the last several years. Is that one of the reasons? Do you think that Brand New Day is so successful?
It definitely seems like a story that's easier to wrap your head around. You don't need to know anything. Maybe you need to know what a Hulk is, but you don't need to know all the homework. This is maybe like the 32nd Marvel movie. I didn't watch any of the TV shows on Disney Plus, and I still loved every minute of it. It was so much fun. And Spider-Man's so great because he's a teenager, so kids can relate. He's been around for 50, 60 years, so adults can relate. And they get those kids started young. The Spidey and His Amazing Friends TV show, 3 and 4-year-olds watch that.
We love that show. When my son was young, I loved watching that with him. And so with that in mind, because you're so right, you not only did they just make it a fun superhero movie like they're supposed to be, but you don't have to know what happened in the previous 28 films to know what this Easter egg or what this little reference was to. Do you think moving forward, the studios will learn a lesson from this and we'll see more movies like this?
I think they're
in the future
going to try and cut back. There's only 3 superhero movies in total coming out next year. I don't think they're going to try and give us that glut of Disney Plus shows to do homework on. And where you make your money is actually at the box office. Put your movie into theaters. You'll make all that money, and then people will want to pay even more to watch it on streaming.
Yeah.
It's so silly when something goes straight to streaming.
Joey V, thanks for the insight.
Hey, thank you, Tony.
And thanks for having to come into the studio and start work a few minutes early. I appreciate it.
Ashley, you're doing great.
We will be back tomorrow at 2 with more Colombo and Company. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you never miss anything that happens here on the show. And keep it here. Larry Connor's commentary is next. Then the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show here on News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can